Hello, Jay Stebb here from Major 7 Jazz Tuition. I'm going to share with you a few clips from my Introduction to Jazz Improvisation course, which is on Udemy, the online learning platform. And these concepts are also featured in one of my books called Using Chord Tones. The links will be in the description. So if you're a beginner in jazz improvisation, this video is going to give you a quick insight into how you can get started. So let's get to it. I've created a simple backing track, and what I want you to do is play the third on each chord. So just play a minim starting on the first beat of each bar. So it'll sound like this. Just like the major 7 chords, I want you to play the third, that's the major third, over each chord. So just play a minim starting on the first beat of every bar. It'll sound like this. Play a minim on the first beat of each bar. This time though, it will be the minor third. This is a great exercise for beginners learning about chord tones, but it's also really good to do over a standard or a tune that you're working on, so you get to know the chord changes. So the next thing to do is to play all the other chord tones over the major 7, dominant 7 and minor 7 backing tracks. So you get to hear them and get to know them. They are the root, the third, which you've done, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th and 13th. Do these one at a time, but feel free to change the rhythm of that note slightly to keep it interesting. You can also do this over different chord changes. Next, play through the changes using a mix of the different chord tones, choosing which ones you want to use to create the desired sound. Now there's just one exercise for you to do, and this is going to mix all the different chord tones into an improvised solo. There are no restrictions on what you can play in terms of rhythms and how many notes you play. So here's a few tips before you start. Think about the melodies you're creating and how the notes move from one chord to the next. So you might find notes that are in both chords that you could hold across the bar line. These are called common chord tones. If you can play a note up or down a semitone when the chord changes, that's really nice too. Finally, this isn't going to sound like a fully formed improvisation because there's still a lot more to work through. So don't worry too much if you don't think it sounds that good. And practice is for improving, not sounding good. Now let me give you a little demonstration and then it's over to you. The next thing to do is to practice playing from and to these different chord tones. In this lecture, you're going to use your knowledge of chord tones to start creating lines, phrases and melodies. And to do that, you're going to be playing from certain chord tones. This gives you a bit of guidance and restriction, so you're not like, oh, where do I start? But it also opens it up for you to start to improvise. This is also the first time you'll see the chord progression for the jazz standard Ladybird, which is what you'll be doing your final improvisation over. So hopefully you'll now be aware that you play the Mixolydian over a dominant 7 chord, the Dorian over a minor 7 chord, and of course the major scale over the major 7 chord. And these scales are made from the chord tones themselves. So to do this exercise, I want you to choose a chord tone for each chorus. That's each time round the progression. And then you'll play a few notes starting from that chord tone. It doesn't have to be much. Anything from 2 to 6 notes is fine. The only restriction I'll give is that you have to play quavers. Here's a demonstration. This means you'll be playing a few notes towards the end of the bar and landing on the specified chord tone on the first beat of the next bar. This is a great exercise because it gives you a direction and a destination for your phrase. You don't have to do lots of notes, just anything from 2 to 5 notes will be fine, and we'll be playing quavers. A couple of tips. You don't have to do anything too adventurous, any big leaps or anything, just keep it simple and chilled. Try to make the last interval as small as possible. A tone or a semitone is perfect. And finally, the majority of your focus should be on hitting that chord tone on the first beat of the bar. The rest of the phrase is secondary and doesn't matter so much. This exercise is challenging and it makes you think ahead, so it's great practice. Let me give you a demonstration so you have an idea of how it should sound. Now that you know a bit about chord tones, moving forward with other techniques like pentatonics, approach notes and licks is going to be easier to understand and more productive and enjoyable. So there you go. Practice these ideas and start developing your improvisation today. And if you'd like to see the full course, head over to Udemy now to enroll, or you could buy my book, Using Chord Tones. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.